Hello Pixies, and welcome to or back to my channel. It's Zoe here, and today we are going to be going over my spring TBR. Now, I like to do TBR seasonally instead of monthly because monthly is too much commitment, and I like to mood read a lot or read things for video projects, so I'm going to be reading a lot more than this in the spring, but I like the opportunity to choose. But these are books either for video projects or just books I've been dying to read and that I know I'll definitely be getting to in spring, even though we have quite a big pile this time. Did I kind of fail at my winter TBR? Yes. But in my defense, I forgot March of the Fairies technically falls during the winter, or else I would have put some of the books for March of the Fairies during that. And I did try to read some of the books for my winter TBR, and it just didn't really end up working out. I ended up actually DNFing, for now, 2 of them. But that's kind of besides the point of this video. So let's just go ahead and jump in. Now, the first book on this list is a sequel book to a book that I read earlier this year, and that book is Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. In January of this year, I actually ended up reading Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and while I can't say it was my absolute favorite, I really did enjoy it. It's fast-paced, it's fun, it has a lot of world building. I thought it had really interesting, unique world building, and it leaves off on what I would call a pretty good cliffhanger. And since that book, I've been really wanting to read this one. I wanted to read it earlier because I just really want to get back to this world. But unfortunately, with all my other video projects and stuff, it hasn't happened. But this spring, I will definitely be reading Days of Blood and Starlight because I'm really excited about this classic YA series because I do like classic YA. They're just really fun books and they're more accessible and they're just really fun to read. And also, I love the redesigned covers. I love the neon aspect. I think it fits the series so well. And I'm excited about this one. I'm curious to see if it's going to be as world building heavy because I feel like we really get what the world is and the structure and everything in the first book. So I'm curious to see if this is going to continue, if there's going to be even more world building, or if we're going to get more action. But I'm really curious about this. The next book I have on this list is a cozy fantasy book that I've been really wanting to read because this book got really popular last year, and that is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. In this book, we follow the main character who is a librarian of magic, and she is a librarian obviously, and she has a familiar that is a sentient spider plant, but one day, the library goes up in flames, the main character grabs what she can, and heads back to her home island, which she never thought she would return to. And when she returns, she decides that she's going to help the people who live there by giving them illegal bits of magic by selling jam. And I don't know if that was the best description, but I just heard this is like a great cozy fantasy. But to be honest, I think a lot of people label things as cozy fantasy even when they aren't cozy. But even by the description, it seems more like a cozy fantasy along the lines of Legends and Lattes, which I think is a true cozy fantasy. So I'm really excited about this because I am actually a big fan of Legends and Lattes. I haven't read Bookshops and Bone Dust yet. It's on my never-ending TBR list, but I'm excited for this one, especially if it's going to give me like similar vibes. And I think there's also a love story in here. And I do love a love story, especially in my fantasy works. The next book on my TBR is actually on here not only because I really want to read it, but also it's going to be in a video project. It's going to be in episode 4 of Are These Books Comparable? I know it's taken a while for episode 3 to come out, but trust me, it'll be worth it. And there won't be such a large gap between third and fourth one. But it's going to be This book is going to be one of the books, and it is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. And in this book, we follow 2 young men who are in high school, and they have been very close since forever. And Andrew has been in love with his friend Thomas for quite a while, but when they return to their boarding school, I believe, Thomas is different. His abusive parents have disappeared, and he seems more withdrawn than ever, and he has also stopped drawing the drawings that he has made, and he also keeps disappearing into the woods surrounding the school, and one day Andrew follows him and he discovers that Thomas is actually battling the monsters in the woods that he once drew. And I think this falls slightly into gothic or like horror fantasy, and if you know me or if you don't, I love a gothic fantasy and I really, really want more of them, so I'm really hoping that this would be that. I'm really intrigued by this book. I've heard it's very, very dark, but I kind of like that. And so I'm excited to be reading this. And on the back it says, Thomas had no idea that Andrew would do anything for him, protect him, lie for him, kill for him. And also the artwork is absolutely beautiful. I know there's a sticker on there. I still haven't gotten it off because it's really sticky. But also the back cover work, like that could be a cover on its own. Like, hello, this is beautiful. I know a lot of people would save this book for fall, especially since it came out last fall, but I didn't own it last fall and I didn't really want to read it during the winter. But I think spooky outdoors books are also really good for spring. Another book I want to read this spring is another book that came out last year, but I've gotten more recently, and that is The 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig. And in this book, in this world, if a family has more than 12 children, the 13th child is meant for the gods. And so once they reach a certain age, they go to where the gods live, and I don't know exactly what they do there, but the 13 children always tend to have extraordinary abilities, I believe. And the main character in this book is a healer, and she has also received a gift. I don't know if she was born with it or has received it from an entity or what else, is that she is able to deduce what exactly people need to cure them, but all gifts come at a price, and we follow along her journey. I've read House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron A. Craig. I haven't read the very belated sequel, House of Roots and Ruin by her yet, but I really enjoy House of Salt and Sorrows. It's a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. I love 12 Dancing Princesses, and she just has a very dark but whimsical writing style, and I'm excited to see how this book goes. I'm kind of hoping for more of that darker vibe again, because once again, I love a gothic fantasy. I don't know if this is a gothic fantasy same as the last book I talked about, but I want it to be, and I'm hoping it will be. Ooh, I'll read you a bit of the cover. It says, Hazel can see when death has claimed a patient and is tasked with ending their suffering permanently. Haunted by the ghosts of those she's killed, Hazel longs to run, but destiny brings her to the royal court where she meets Leopold, a rakish prince with a disdain for everyone and everything. And that's where Hazel faces her biggest dilemma yet. Should she save the life of a king marked to die? Hazel knows that she is meant to do and what her heart is urging her towards, but what happens if she goes against the will of death itself? I didn't know how to romance aspect, that's so fun. And the next two books on this list are definitely for a video project and for a very specific video project, because these are both books that have to do with time in some way. The first book I want to talk about is one that I've been dying to read for years now, and that is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And the concept of this book is that Evelyn Hardcastle dies at this party at the same time every single day, and it's up to the main character, who I believe his name is Aiden, to figure out who is killing her and to stop her death. He's stuck in a time loop, but every single day he wakes up in one of the other guests' bodies, and so he has to kind of figure out what they did exactly with their day and who Evelyn Hardcastle's killer is and how to stop her death. That's all I know about it. That's all it really tells us. It doesn't really sound like something I would usually read, because I am a fantasy girly and I wouldn't really describe this as a fantasy. And I haven't honestly read a lot of books with time travel elements, or I haven't even really read anything even with a time loop. But this just intrigues me so much that I've been really wanting to read it for a long time, and I'm finally making it a priority, and it's going to be a part of a time themed reading vlog that I'll have coming out in the next couple of months, this spring definitely. I don't really know much about it, but I do know a lot of people have read it and really liked it, so maybe trying something new will really work out for me, and it's nice to branch out every once in a while. And for the same video, along a similar vein, this one I feel like it's more magical realism, and this is The Unmaking of June Pharaoh by Adrienne Young. And this is definitely a book with a time travel element, and I'm just going to read you what the flap says because I won't be able to. I can't remember every book, okay? I just can't. But the inside flap says, in the small mountain town of Jasper, North Carolina, June Farrow is waiting for fate to find her. The Farrow women are known for their thriving flower farm and for mysterious curse that has plagued their family line. The whole town remembers the madness that led to Susanna Farrow's disappearance, leaving her daughter June to be raised by her grandmother and haunted by rumors. It's been a year since June started seeing and hearing things that aren't there. Fate wind chimes, a voice calling her name, and a mysterious door appearing out of nowhere. Signs of what June has always known is coming. But June is determined to end the curse once and for all, even if she must sacrifice the hope of love and a family of her own. After her grandmother's death, June discovers a series of cryptic clues regarding her mother's disappearance, except these lead only to more questions. But could the door she once assumed was a hallucination be the answer she's searching for? The next time it appears, June realizes that she can touch it and walk through the threshold, and when she does, she embarks on a journey that will not only change both the past and the future, but uncover the lingering mysteries of her small town and entangle her heart in an epic, star-crossed love. And, that sounds really interesting. It sounds like something I don't usually read. It's set in the real world, which, for one, isn't usually what I do. And when I do read stuff set in the real world, it's still a fantasy book, just with, there's a lot of fantasy elements in it. Like, an example of that is the Rose Bargain. Our world, but completely different. I'm excited about this. And these two, timey books are a bit different for me, but I'm still, really intrigued by them. So yeah, I'm also going to be reading The Undying of June Farrow this spring. Here's another book that's a part of a series that I really want to finish, and this is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I read One Dark Window this winter. It was in my episode of Are These Books Comparable for River Enchanted, which once again will be coming very soon. And as a spoiler for that video, I really enjoyed One Dark Window, but I didn't think it was perfect. This is marketed as a gothic fantasy. I think it could be a little bit more gothic, to be honest. But kind of the concept for One Dark Window is that there's this really interesting magic system that has to do with cards, because a long time ago, this king made a deal with this spirit in the woods in order to give magic to his people. So she invented these deck of tarot cards, and each one has a different magical property. But when people start using those cards too much, instead of relying on her for magic, she curses the woods, and basically if you dive into the mist without a talisman of any kind, she is going to take you back. And in this world there is also a fever, and this fever, if you're marked by it, you have to either die from it or be killed afterwards, but neither of these things happen to our main character. And because this has happened to her, she now has a monster living inside her head, and then she is invited to basically embark upon, I don't want to say a journey or an adventure, because she's not really going anywhere, but she needs to help them collect the rest of the deck of cards, so maybe they can finally undo the curse of the spirit in the woods. I hope that's not too spoilery. I enjoyed One Dark Window. I felt it was a little fast and I wish we got more character, but it does leave off on a big cliffhanger, and I do want to finish the series. I want to see where the story ends because it's a duology, so I really want to read Two Twisted Crowns before too much time passes. And then I have some library books that I've checked out, so I definitely need to read these soon. The first one I have checked out is The Girl with No Reflection by Keshi Chow. I could be pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry if I am, and this is very reflective, sorry. I've been wanting to read this since before this book even came out, because we are following a princess and she is engaged to this prince, and so she is sent to be with him so they can get married. But when she arrives to where she's going, him and his family just are very cold, very distant, and end up locking her in her room that she's supposed to be living in, and the only thing that's really in there is a mirror, so she spends a lot of time looking at her reflection. But one day she steps through the mirror into the mirror world where everything is different. The prince is nice and lovely, and so are his family. Everyone's so much kinder and better, and she starts to fall for the prince on the other side of the mirror. But not everything in this mirror world is as it seems. I've heard people don't love this book who have read it. but I want to try it anyway because I like to see things for myself. It could just be fun. If I don't like it or if I'm really hating it, I can always DNF it. But I still am really intrigued and I want to give it a try without having other people's opinions influence me that much. Another book that I really want to read, which is another series that I want to finish, is The Queen of Nothing, and this is the third and final full book of the Folk of the Air trilogy. There are some novellas, but this is like the last, this is the conclusion to the story. The novellas are just like extra bits. And we're directly following the events of The Wicked King. I read The Wicked King recently. It was in my first video of March of the Fairies reading challenge. I liked that book. I didn't think it was as good as The Cruel Prince, but it really ends off on a cliffhanger, and I really have just been wanting to continue this book. I would start today if I had the time, but I don't. I just really, really want to read this, and because I really want to see how the story concludes, and I want to know if this is going to be like a new favorite series, or if it's just a series I really do enjoy and would recommend, but isn't my absolute favorite. I want to know. I want to know how it ends, so we're finally going to be doing that. On the other side, a series I want to start is the Little Thieves series by Margaret Owen. I read The Merciful Crow duology by this author. I started it in 2023. I finished it last year in 2024, and I loved those books, and I've been wanting to read Little Thieves before I even read those books, but I just never got around to it. The third book in this series is coming out within like the next month, I want to say. And I know book 2 ends on a massive cliffhanger, and by starting to read it now, maybe I can avoid waiting over a year for the next book, because I'm not getting into book holla. Or maybe I am, but not for this series. In this book, we follow Vanya, and Vanya, she's the adopted goddaughter of Death and Fortune, who I think is a god, and she was the servant to a princess up until a year ago, when she then takes the princess's place with an enchanted necklace of pearls. And so the princess is now living her terrible life, and she is a princess, and she is also living even more of a double life, because not only is she in the court during the day talking and gathering information for all the powerful people there, but she is also stealing from them at night because she is planning on running away. But then one day she steals from the wrong person, and the wrong god, who curses her to turn into jewels and stones, I think. And she has just 2 weeks to reverse the curse. It sounds kind of heisty, sounds very action-y. I just really, really want to love this, and I'm just really, really excited about this book. And when I saw that the library had it, I got it immediately, even though I wasn't planning on reading it right now. But I'm really, really excited to be reading this. And the last book I have physically here with me is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And I'm just going to read you this one again, because for some reason, every time I try to say the description, like, I just forget sections of it. So here it goes. Once there was a key to elsewhere. For centuries, the Everleys have seen their best and brightest disappear, taken as punishment for a crime no one remembers, for a purpose no one understands. Their tormentor, a woman named Penelope, never ages, never grows sick, and never forgives a debt. Violet Everly was a child when her mother, Marianne, left on a stormy night, determined to break the curse. When Marianne never returns, Penelope issues an ultimatum. Violet has 10 years to find her mother, or she will take Marianne's place. Her hunt leads her to a seductive magical underworld of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge, into the path of Penelope's quiet assistant, Alexander, who Violet knows cannot be trusted, and yet to whom she finds herself undeniably drawn to. With her time running out, Violet will travel the edges of the world to find her missing mother and the key to the City of Stardust, where the Everly story began. I really, really want to read this, and part of the reason I want to read this is because this is an urban fantasy, and I really want to be reading more urban fantasies, because I don't tend to read a lot of them. The only books I can really say that I've read that are definitely, without a shadow of doubt, urban fantasy is that I've read the first 2 Crescent City books. Loved the first one. Second one was really just whatever to me. And also, some people say that, like, other urban ones could be The Darkest Part of the Forest or, like, the Mortal Instruments series, but I don't know if that really counts. But I want to read more, like, high fantasy, urban fantasy, so I'm hoping this ticks this box, because I have an idea perhaps, of an urban fantasy story I want to write, but since I haven't really read the genre, I don't know the conventions or the expectations, and I also don't want to accidentally write a boring story, so I want to research and read more urban fantasy books, so I want to read The City of Stardust. And the last 2 books on my TBR are ones I'm also going to be getting from the library, but I don't currently have with me, and the first one I have is Lucy Undying, and this is a Dracula inspired one, inspired by one of the brides of Dracula. This is a horror novel, not really a fantasy novel. So once again, reading something that's a bit out of my comfort zone, but it's been something I really want to read. And it's also for a video project. And Lucy Undying, the concept is that her death was only the beginning of her life. And she has spent all of her mortal life trying to escape from Dracula and discover who she truly is. And then in 21st century London, she meets another woman who's yearning to break free from her past. And I think this is journal entries, but I could be completely wrong. And I think this is also a love story. And I just really want to read it. I'm quite excited about it. I didn't realize that it was going to take place mostly in the modern day. I thought it was going to be more historical book, but like that excites me because like I just said, want to read like more urban stories. So that might be like a good thing. And the very last book that's officially on my spring TBR is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. And this is a book I actually wanted to read during March of the Fairies, but I have this book on hold at the library and I still haven't received it, so unfortunately that didn't happen. And the description for this book is this. Wren of Edgewood is no stranger to suffering. With her parents gone, it's Wren's responsibility to ensure her and her sisters survive the harsh and endless winter, but if the legends are to be believed, their home may not be safe for much longer. For 300 years, the land surrounding Edgewood has become encased in ice as the shade, a magical barrier that protects the townsfolk from the deadlands beyond, weakens. Only one thing can stop the shade's fall, the blood of a mortal woman bound in wedlock to the north wind, a dangerous immortal whose heart is said to be as frigid as the land he rules. And the time has come to choose his bride. When the north wind sets his eyes on Wren's sister, Wren will do anything to save her, from even if it means sacrificing herself in the process. But mortal or not, Wren won't go down without a fight. And this is another fairy fantasy book. I know I've mentioned a couple more fairy fantasy books on this list, even though I just did my March of the Fairies reading challenge, but I love fairy fantasy books, and I'll probably read even more that aren't on this list. I'm just still in the mood for fairy books. Fairy books are one of my absolute favorite things. Oh my god. And there's another book I was going to read this spring. Why wasn't it on my list? Another book I'm going to be reading this spring, which I own but I'm not getting up to get right now, is Leviathan Wakes, and this is the first book in the Expanse, and this is a science fiction novel that I'm very nervous to read, but my brother wants me to read it, so I'm going to give it a try. And I think it has like a mystery plot line, and it's a very large and thick book that I'm very intimidated by. But I'm definitely going to be reading that this spring, and I'm actually planning on reading it in April. I have no idea why I forgot to grab it, but I did. So these are all the books that are officially on my spring TBR. I'll definitely be reading more books than this. If I don't get to a couple of them, that's okay. But I really, really want to read all of these. And if I use my time wisely and stop being on my phone all the time, I can. And yeah, I'm really excited for all these books, and I feel like I have a blend of really cool fantasies I want to read, but also like urban fantasy versus like more historical fantasies versus more high fantasies. We've got some time travel books, got some stuff, different genres that I don't usually read, so I'm getting out my comfort zone. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. I would really, really appreciate it. Also, if you want to see me read these books I mentioned, you can subscribe, because most of these books should be in videos that I'm planning to do, whether it's for hyper-specific videos or just general reading vlogs. You'll probably see most of them. And if you really want to see a book in particular, mention it down below so I can make sure to actually include it in the video and not just read it in my own time. And I guess that's it. So I guess I'm signing off now. Okay, bye.